Well, hello there, how is everyone? I hope you're well on this stupendous Saturday. I say it's Saturday. It's the morning after the night before. By night before, we obviously mean the Dateline thing, which I already know has affected a lot of people who have taken some of the things in this Dateline kind of hit piece. And look, it is what it is, because ultimately this documentary, it had one purpose, and that is to take the state story and push the state story out. Perfect timing. We're heading towards the trial. What are we, 12 weeks away from the trial? And this is about putting that side of the argument. It wasn't ever going to be a balanced piece. It wasn't ever going to bring up the inconsistencies in the evidence. It wasn't ever going to do that. We know that this has been being put together for some period of time. It wasn't something that was put together over the last 24, 48 hours. This has been an ongoing thing. I know there are some things within this documentary that are going to raise some concerns. There was one thing in this documentary for me that did raise a concern and an alarm bell, if you like, and it was surrounding the Asian lady, the Asian girl who was Bryan Kohberger's friend. That story around the key, there was a situation, if you haven't watched it, where this is the young lady who had felt that she was potentially getting people going into her apartment. That to me is a bit of an alarm bell. I don't think that can be ignored. I don't think that can be passed off as anything less than what it is, and that is strange. The only thing that I would say is you have to then believe in the authenticity of the story. You have to believe in the individual telling it and their version of events. But if she is being honest, then that in itself does not look good. It doesn't look good. But the vast majority of this, again, hit piece. I say hit piece, and I say hit piece because it is what it is. Is we're coming up toward the trial, and this is a huge sort of media outlet pushing one side of the story and being very, very strategic in what they say and how they say it. But it is purely to be on the side of the prosecution and to push the prosecution's theory. Even though they did pull up some things towards the end of the documentary and raise some things that could still be used by the defense to topple the house of cards, if you like. But I wanted in this video to go over the timeline. They did a short video. Within the video, it was a 5-minute long segment that looked at what specifically happened on the night of the crime. And I want us to look at this together, and I want you to let me know in the comments down below what you think about it. But let's get into it, because it is an interesting one.
We had this animation built. It's based on the recollections of former residents and court records, police affidavits, real estate, and social media images of the house. And we've also spoken to sources close to the investigation who gave us their theories of what happened. Sometime after 4:07 a.m., the killer entered the
What I will just say, and I apologise that I have to jump in and talk over this, is because of fair usage law. If somebody does a video like this, the only way that we can legally use it as content creators is to provide narration over the top of it. I know it can be frustrating, I know it can be annoying, and I got a comment, I think it was yesterday, saying, "Oh, it's so annoying, you keep stopping it." We have to. It is literally the law, and if we do not do it, we can be sued for copyright infringement. So again, I apologise, but I digress. 4:07, that car was still driving. Suspect vehicle 1 was still driving outside at 4:07 a.m. So you've still got a little bit of time before that car makes its final maneuver to park, and then the individual who's inside that suspect vehicle 1, if indeed you believe that's the actual car, they've still got to get from the car to the property and into the property. So I'm saying that the person didn't actually probably enter this house possibly until around 4:07 4:09, perhaps, if there was any apprehension to get out, if they were looking around, scoping to make sure it was safe for them to eject from the car and then approach the house. So, yeah, it was quite, because we've always been led to believe it was a little bit earlier than that. But, yeah, 4:07, and it was still driving, it was still maneuvering around the property.
House on the second floor through an unlocked sliding kitchen door, and went quickly and directly upstairs to Maddy Mogen's bedroom. Sources close to the investigation have told us that is one of the reasons they believe Maddy was the killer's target. But almost certainly to the killer's surprise, he discovered that Maddy was not alone. Kaylee was sleeping in the same bed. There was a struggle. It was noisy. Multiple sources close to the investigation speculate that Xana, downstairs in the second floor kitchen on TikTok, heard thumping and went to investigate. The killer must have heard this, our sources said, and turned his attention away from Maddy and Kaylee and began chasing Xana.
And in that kind of chaos, this thing gets dropped.
The thing.
So that is interesting, because we've obviously heard recently about the sounds of potentially people going up and down the stairs. But this is, again, I can't get my head around this. This question has to be raised. Let me just come back up onto the main screen here. So what we're basically saying here is there's an altercation. Xana is downstairs. She hears the noise, and she's then suggesting that she then ventures upstairs. Now, how far up the stairs does she get? Does she actually get to go into the room? Because you're going to find out another situation in a second, what the killer supposedly did in that room. Now, did Xana physically walk into that room and catch the person doing what they were doing? And then, if that's the case, then would you not have thought that Xana would have been more vocal? Especially considering they're suggesting that she runs downstairs and goes to try and, get to Ethan. Well, you'd think that she would be screaming high almighty, wouldn't you? And that would have been caught on camera. The camera obviously picks up Murphy barking and a thud or whatever. But I can't fathom why, if Xana's seen anything and she feels that she's in imminent danger and she runs down, why she wouldn't be screaming, why she wouldn't be shouting, Ethan, Ethan, Ethan. I can't really make sense of someone being like they're imminently in danger, feeling their life may be at threat and trying to get away, get to somebody for help while doing this silently. It's bizarre to me, but we'll carry on.
On Maddy's bed. Those same sources have told us that with the killer in pursuit, Xana desperately tried to reach her bedroom where Ethan was sleeping or was possibly passed out. But as she reached the bedroom, the killer was on her. What one source described as a hell of a fight ensued. At 4:17 a.m., 10 minutes after the suspect car turned in toward 1122 King Road, the security camera on that neighboring house picked up sounds, including what police described in charging papers as distorted audio of what sounded like voices or a whimper, followed by a loud thud. Here are those sounds. A dog began to bark, as if something was wrong. Then, multiple sources close to the investigation told us, with Xana either dead or dying, the killer saw Ethan in bed, possibly passed out after a night of drinking, and with one swift blow of the knife, blood spatter shows, the killer struck an artery.
So, was this luck? Was this skill? Was this, it's very sad. But again, I raise the same issue. I raise the same issue in that, was Xana silently fearing for her life and heading back towards Ethan? But look, let's carry on.
When you're dealing with crimes that are motivated by anger toward women, the men...
This, by the way, is frustrating as hell. This consistently this is speculation. This is speculation regarding this is why this crime took place, and it's because that's all they seem to be able to go on. Even the story in this Dateline thing, the young lady who had exchanged numbers with Bryan, there was nothing in that. There was literally nothing in it. They tried to build that in as if it was some weird situation, but they were at a party. She gave Bryan her number, or Bryan gave her his number. She then messages Bryan or rings Bryan, so he has her number. They then go their separate ways at the party. The following day, he messages her to say, "Look, well, I think we spoke yesterday about the fact that you like hiking. Am I right?" sort of thing. And she never messaged him back. It was literally nothing. So, in terms of pushing this, he had problems with women. This seems to literally stem from altercations surrounding the teaching assistant role, and how students didn't particularly like his treatment of them during this time, which is commonplace.
In the way are rapidly dispatched.
And then, according to our sources, the killer did something strange. He carved Ethan's lower legs. Carved is the specific word that was used.
If you view that person as having gotten in the way of what it is you're trying to play out, you might be overwhelmed with anger toward them and do something extra. And I think it's
which feeds back into the Kaylee Goncalves situation. We also know, which they don't. They actually, I find it very strange. They don't really go into detail about Kaylee Goncalves at all. Like, even when they mention that they believe Madison Mogen was the target in that altercation in that room, they literally don't mention Kaylee Goncalves at all, which is quite bizarre, unless Steve Goncalves told them that he didn't want to be part of it, which would kind of make sense.
Clue that there was a sexualized component to this, because this was about women. There was a special anger toward that male.
It looked like the killer sat down after that, said an investigative source, and left behind impressions in blood on a bedroom chair.
Impressions in blood. So was there blood on the chair and the individual sat in it and smeared it on the chair, or did they have blood on them and then they sat down and transferred the blood from the back of them onto the chair?
Exhausted. He's gone through 4 people.
People that commit mass murder don't anticipate the adrenal exhaustion that's going to overwhelm them when they do it.
All in 8 minutes.
But as he left the bedroom, intending to exit through the same kitchen door where he entered, the killer was surprised again by another roommate. Dylan Mortensen had heard various unexplained noises that night, and at that moment opened her bedroom door. After hearing a noise she said she thought was crying coming from Xana's room, according to a police affidavit.
She's bothered by the noise. She opens the door and sees this individual coming down the hallway.
Later, in charging papers, police said Dylan told them she heard a male voice say something like, "It's okay, I'm going to help you," and saw a male in black clothing and a mask that covered the person's mouth and nose walking towards her. She said he was 5 feet 10 or taller, not very muscular, but athletically built with bushy eyebrows. She said the male walked past her as she stood in a frozen shock phase.
If she had said one word, if she had screamed for help, if she didn't find the moments too overwhelming, I think she would have been killed too.
But she was not. Dylan said the man walked away while she locked herself in the bedroom.
She knows something's wrong. She's under the influence of alcohol. She's between being awake and asleep.
He would have probably assumed that she was about to call 911. He better get the hell out of there.
Definitely.
They do later on question the 8 hours time delay, and they try and explain it. I think they try and explain it quite badly, because again, by questioning the 8 hours, you are diminishing the credibility of this witness, a witness who has been deemed credible by the court. So again, you can't have your cake and eat it here. Is she credible? Is she not credible? If she's credible, that means she had to be compos mentis. If she's compos mentis, then the 8 hour time delay doesn't make sense. The only way it doesn't make sense is for her not to be compos mentis, which would then challenge the integrity of her as a witness, in my opinion.
Their objective now is to get out of there and not to get caught.
And here, at 4:20 a.m., is suspect vehicle 1 as it burst back into the range of that security camera. At a high rate of speed, the car raced toward the intersection, turned right, and disappeared from view.
So that is what they believe, through information they've received, happened on the actual specific night of the crime. I'd just like to hear your thoughts and feelings around that. Again, I'm still letting the dust settle on the actual thing itself. I'm going to be doing a video later on today just to give you my initial reaction to the video. Not going to be showing up, again, just my reaction of some of the points that it raised. So if you're not subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel, smash a like if you haven't smashed a like, and join me in video 2 later on today, and then tomorrow we'll go live and we'll have a discussion about it together. But until then, catch you all.